welcome back to the No Morning Show here on CTT. And we are going to be talking right now to Vishen Babwa and Rondell Fields from the Used Car Dealers Association about what has happened since the measures were announced since last October in the budget. A quota for the amount of vehicles they can import, a quota because they want to cut down on the foreign exchange usage, who can import cars, who shouldn't import cars, and just really what has been happening. I know that at the time they were very concerned that they were more or less being discriminated because they thought other people were using more foreign exchange, and there didn't seem to be that kind of restriction on them. So let's welcome to the program Mr. Babwa and Mr. Fields. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
How are you both doing?
We are very well this morning.
All right. Mr. Babwa, bring me up to speed, because I would have seen you in an article talking about Massey Motors selling used cars. And I don't know, doesn't Massey Motors need a license to sell used cars?
Yes, Natalie. Well, as you would go back from where you started, in the budget last year, the Minister of Finance announced that they were going to reduce our quota because the leakage of foreign exchange is happening in the foreign used car industry. And they did that, you could say, with immediate effect, because up to today, we have not received our entire quota for this year. Some guys were given 3 cars, and that license will expire 31st of December 2021. I have spoken to the minister. She said, well, give her until the end of this week, right? But they have moved with warp speed to control the amount of car that was imported by foreign used car dealers. And they also announced then that they were going to impose a quota on the franchise new car dealers. But we have heard that many times before, and again we heard it then, and up till today, nothing has been said about that. You know, so when, about 2 weeks ago, when I got wind that Massey Motors was selling foreign used car, it was very, very shocking to us, because in order to sell foreign used car, and I would have sent you a copy of the page of the policy to regulate the foreign used car industry, where in order to be a dealer, you must be registered with the Ministry of Trade, right? And we cannot have any inter-dealer relationships with selling cars. So in other words, if I don't want a car, if a customer wants a car and I don't have the car, I cannot buy the car from Rondell, or I cannot buy the car from any one of my other dealers and sell that car. The car must be sold to the public through me, because a warranty has to be given from me, and then I have to file a return back to the Ministry of Trade with all this information. So I was quite shocked when I saw they were advertising these cars, Brave in Facebook. They were giving out invoices, and the invoice did not have a registration number. Clearly, if you are selling a locally registered car, there's a different process in terms of documentation than a foreign used car. A foreign used car, you just give an invoice with the chassis number, the customer name, address, the type of car, and these sort of information. But for a local used car that has been registered, the bank will ask for a sales agreement between the two parties, because the car has been registered already. So these cars were purchased for sale to the public. We brought it to the attention of the minister, and she said that she was investigating it. She had launched an investigation, and we will hear sometime this week what is happening. But that investigation should not be a long, drawn-out investigation. That is a one day. She already identified the company that sold the car, because in the policy, Natalie, it clearly states, right, that it's not long. The TLU will be adopting a zero-tolerance approach to the trading of units or spaces by dealers on their import license. Any discovery of these occurrences shall result in the automatic cancellation of the dealer registration certificate and the revocation of his or her import license. And we take this very, very serious. So,
but isn't this something that, outside of Massey though, isn't this something that happens in the industry where people sell cars literally on behalf of others, or, you know, take vehicles from one dealer to sell for themselves?
No, well, Natalie, this was something that was practiced before. But then in 2015, 2016, when we took Minister Barrett to court for the same under the UNC regime, we took him to court for the same thing because he wanted to bring in individuals and give them very big licenses and leave us out when we were there for 25 years. And then they inserted that clause in the policy. So that has stopped. Since 2016, it was illegal. It has become illegal to do that. So people no longer do that.
Mr. Fields, tell me, what do you think about what's happening here with Massey? Par for the course or should never ever happen?
Well, that is something. Well, okay, Rondell, you go ahead.
Yeah, Natalie. I mean, the true disaffection that the other dealers, I imagine, would have is, as Mr. Babwa alluded to, years gone by, it was actually 2014. Before 2014, trading out spaces was a way that a guy with a smaller quota, a guy who had 10 cars at that time, when his quota had expired, he would go and buy from other dealers and then have the opportunity now to sell more cars. And it was something that the ministry at that point decided to cease. So the true disaffection is other dealers who would have wanted to do that from since then and would have been made to discontinue. For them to see Massey being able to do the same thing after Massey having a history of, their past representative, Mr. Philip Naggs, has continued to express back in the days 10 years ago that he did not believe in the foreign news industry and foreign news importation should have stopped. So I think it was a shock or a blow in the face of a lot of the dealers to see that Massey now was engaging in a practice that they used to engage in before, particularly because they didn't have enough vehicles to trade at that point in time and were made to discontinue. So that is one of our challenges. As Mr. Babwa also spoke about, we are now in a position where we don't even know what our annual quota is this year. We've gotten a percentage of the quota and we were told to wait until March. March, you can say, has already ended. So we have no kind of determination as into what our quota is this year. There's been no messaging, no clear messaging. Every type of restriction, every type of new introduction has been introduced against the used car industry, opposed to the introductions that were suggested in the finance minister's budget. None of them have been implemented against the new car industry.
So you believe there's discrimination going on? You believe there's discrimination between used car dealers and new car dealers?
It has to be that, because if all the introductions has been introduced, all the suggestions on the used car industry has been introduced on us already, they cut our quotas, you could say they temporarily cut our quotas, they reduce the age, they remove hybrid from the market now because they put back on the taxes. Why hasn't the quota that they suggested, or the quota that they didn't suggest, what they said they were going to implement on the new car industry, being implemented as yet? This is March. From January to March, it means they've been able to import cars as much as they like. We identified last year on your show that we were responsible for just about 28% of the Forex usage in the automotive industry. This was a statement by the minister himself. 72% of it was from the new car industry. Yet the new car industry still hasn't have that quota system that they said they were going to introduce implemented upon them. So it means the same amount of Forex they were using last year, they are already using it now because they can go ahead and import as freely as they like, while they have already introduced a semi-cut, for lack of a better expression, on we the importers, because now we can't import more than what they allowed us to until March month.
Right. And speaking about Massey Motors, so if you're saying that it is illegal to cross-trade like that, do you expect that action will be taken against Massey Motors for breaching the law if you've established that there has been a breach?
Well, I can't say for Massey Motors because Massey Motors don't have a license, but there are certain rules they will have to follow. But the individual, the company that has sold them that car, which is trading in for a used car, I would expect action to be taken against that company. Because if that was any one of us else, action would have been taken already. So I don't know what would become of Massey. Massey is saying now, they sent out a statement saying that they have purchased these cars and the cars will be registered, right? They purchased the car for the rental fee and the cars will be registered. However, that is untrue. because before the car leaves your compound, a dealer compound, it has to be registered in the new owner's name. So it cannot be packed up in somebody else's lot, advertised for sale without a registration number, and you are saying that you purchased this car for your rental fleet. So I hope, and I really hope that the Minister of Trade and the Minister of Finance also, which always, attacks the foreign used car industry, and he was one of the person who made the announcement that it's a wastage of foreign exchange. We hope that some action be taken to curb these type of actions.
Mr. Fields, you spoke about, kind of partially knowing how many cars you all are allowed to import because there's been a quota of a 30% reduction to the quota. But didn't you all know the number before to know how many cars you all can import now?
Well, that's the thing. Normally, at the beginning of the year, when you receive your trade letter, they will tell you the number of cars that you have for the year, which is normally the normal quota limit that you're accustomed having every year. But this year, however, based on the pronouncement made by the finance minister, we were told by the minister earlier this year that they were in a place of indecisiveness and they wanted to determine, they weren't sure if they're going to do the 30% cut or not. So that is why she was giving us a temporary amount, a temporary percentage out of our quota until the end of March or until March. She didn't say end or beginning, for us to be able to import some percentage out of the quota. But we're at the end of the March and we don't know, are we going to get our full quotas like we did those years previously, or is there going to be a quota cut? That is where we, so now if you brought your limit, some people got as little as 3 cars until March from January. They would have brought those cars possibly since January and not been allowed to conduct business since then. I only imagine their staff would have been sent home by now, because it makes no sense to just bring 3 cars, sell them, and nobody there. If their staff is there, I'm pretty sure they're at a lower pay rate. So
all right, gentlemen, we are almost out of time. What do you say to the Minister of Trade at this time regarding what's happening? Because I know, as you said, you're not sure of what the quota system, what percentage cut there is going to be. You don't know why Massey is selling a vehicle for a license that it does not have. What's your message to the minister if she's watching? And she probably is.
We are calling on the minister this morning, Natalie, to let us know how far our investigation has reached and what, and to my knowledge, and since she has already identified the person that sold Massey the car, something's supposed to be happening now, and let us know quickly what is happening with that. Because as I said, if that was myself, Rondell Fields, or any one of my executive, we would have had to face the brunt of the end of the sword already. And we need to also know that our quotas are hanging in the balance. Our businesses are kind of shutting down as the day goes by. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. We're having this Forex challenge. So it's various challenges we're having. And we would like the minister to clearly state what is her position with our quota as of this week. I would like to know that, and what action she intends to take against the dealer that has sold Massey the cars.
Mr. Fields, final words before we wrap. Oh, all right. We are going to have to leave it there, but we were talking to Rondell Fields and Vishen Babwa of the Used Car Dealers Association, and they believe there is discrimination in the system because everything that was suggested, according to the gentleman, in the budget presentation towards used car dealers have been implemented, but not for new car dealers. We take that break and we'll be back.